The concept of Capitalocene emerged as a critique of the widely used term Anthropocene. Anthropocene describes the current geological epoch as one shaped by human activity. Capitalocene argues that the ecological crisis is not the result of humanity as a whole, but of the historical development of capitalism. According to this perspective, focusing on humanity obscures the specific economic and political systems responsible for environmental destruction. Crises of the Anthropocene argue that it promotes a universal view of humanity that ignores deep inequalities of race, class, and colonial history. By treating all humans as equally responsible for ecological degradation, the concept conceals how capitalism has disproportionately benefited some groups while exploiting others. It also reinforces an anthropocentric worldview that places humans at the center of planetary history. The Capitalocene instead shifts attention to capital accumulation, emphasizing how capitalism transforms nature into resources, labor into commodities, and living beings into exploitable objects. The Capitalocene is one among several alternative scenes proposed to replace the Anthropocene, including the Thulucene, Necrocene, Petrocene, and Eurocene. However, it has gained the greatest acceptance because it directly identifies capitalism as the dominant force shaping the modern world. Capital's ability to convert fossil fuels, forests, animals, and human labor into commodities demonstrates its world making power. Thus, the Capitalocene recognizes capitalism as a system that organizes both society and nature. Capitalocene is not simply about blaming individual capitalists. It seeks to move beyond Anthropocene by understanding capitalism as a complex assemblage of economic, political, social, and ecological relations. The focus is not on humans alone, but on the process through which capital restructures life on a planetary scale. Every geological epoch describes conditions to which life must adapt. If capitalism defines the current epoch, then all forms of life are increasingly forced to adapt to the logic of capital accumulation. In this sense, the Capitalocene names not only the cause of ecological crisis, but also the conditions under which survival is organized. Unlike some Anthropocene perspectives that emphasize reducing human populations, such as Donna Haraway's call to make kin, not babies, Capitalocene theory argues that capitalism itself generates the forces that may ultimately challenge it. Drawing from Marx's thought, it identifies the proletariat, those subjected to exploitation, as capitalism's potential gravediggers. As capitalism expands globally, it also expands the populations and environments affected by exploitation. Just as capitalism continually broadens the categories of workers it exploits, Capitalocene suggests that non human entities, animals, ecosystems, and natural processes can also be understood as part of an enlarged proletariat. These non human actors share a common condition of exploitation under capitalism, even if they cannot consciously organize against it. Capitalocene requires a rethinking of class politics on a planetary scale. Capital accumulation now affects both human and extra human nature. Consequently, resistance to capitalism must also expand its notion of solidarity. Rather than Haraway's idea of making kin, the Capitalocene proposes making worker, creating broader alliances between humans and non human entities affected by capitalist exploitation. In this way, the Capitalocene becomes both a critique of ecological destruction and a framework for imagining new forms of collective resistance and ecological justice.